Simon Clarke joins me now. He teaches microbiology at the University of Reading in the UK. Hello, thank you very much indeed for your time. I'd like to start off by talking about the situation here in France. As we heard in that report, bars are shut, but not restaurants. Does that actually make sense to you?
Well, I guess the authorities in France have decided that there are clusters of infections around hospitality venues, and perhaps they think that bars are a little more relaxed than restaurants and that people are less likely to socially distance. They're more likely to get up close and personal with one another in a bar. So while I'm not sure that there's any data to support that, I suspect that might be the philosophy behind this.
And why does it matter how many people you get together with, whether it's in a public or a private setting? Depending on the country, it's limited to 6 or 8 or 10. How do they come up with that number?
Well, it's guesswork, basically. There is, again, as far as I'm aware, no data on a magic number, but it's all aimed, I think, at reducing the amount of interpersonal interactions that take place. Because like any pathogen, like any infectious agent, this virus requires host-to-host contact and a chain of infection, a chain of spread, in order to be able to survive. And without that, they die out.
Now, have we got better? And when I say we, I mean, obviously in hospitals in various countries around the world. Have they got better at treating COVID-19?
Yes, there have been some advances. There will obviously be advances in how to assess patients. A drug called remdesivir has been shown to shorten people's stay in hospital, but it doesn't have an effect on the sickest patients. If they end up in intensive care, then remdesivir doesn't have an effect. But if they do end up in intensive care, there is dexamethasone, which reduces the death rate of the sickest patients by about 30%, by about a third. So there aren't, sadly, any magic bullet cures in order to be able to cure everybody, but there are a number of drugs which have shown use in the clinic, in hospitals. So it's not a situation without hope.
Now, as we heard in the report we were broadcasting just before we came to you, that the number of intensive care beds, that the occupancy rate is very high. Does this mean then, do you think, that more than shutting bars or even restaurants, we're going to need local lockdowns?
I suspect so, yes. I think authorities, perhaps in France and in the UK, want to approach this in a careful way. They don't want to seem to be overreacting, but at the same time, they can't act too slowly. Otherwise, the genie will be out of the bottle. The people that are turning up at hospital now probably got their infection about a couple of weeks ago. So really, we're acting now, and there are already a number of people baked in who will end up in hospital no matter what we do. But of course, it becomes important not to make that situation worse.
Now, you're in England, and there are some rules that apply to England and others to Scotland, and it can be very confusing. Would you say that when it comes to government handling of these matters, it's even more complicated by just the nature of how the country is run?
It is becoming more complicated, yes, and there are variations within England as well to add another layer of complexity. I mean, yes, it makes it more complex, but it is an inevitable consequence of a devolved style of government.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for your time and your analysis, Simon Clarke from Reading University of Reading. Now, coronavirus measures are tightened.